Good afternoon, Harlem and Harlems of the world. I am Terri Wisdom, and this is Harlem Network News. Harlem Network News, as many of you know, is a new media platform. We started at the onset of COVID, and we're still here. We celebrated Easter Sunday, our second anniversary. It's amazing, it's surreal, but we are still here. And Harlem Network News really started to assure that the community was informed. Knowledge is power. And at the onset of COVID, there were many people in our community, Black people, people of color, that were walking around and saying, I can't get it. And the reason that they were thinking they couldn't get COVID is because when we saw all the trucks and people lined up at the hospital, they didn't see anybody that looked like them. So, I mean, I have over 30-year career in media, and my partner had been giving me gentle nudges all year, just saying, you need to do this. But once COVID started, I knew that we really had to jump in the deep water. And it's been quite a journey. We're on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, Clubhouse, soon to be Manhattan Neighborhood Network, and we do a weekly newsletter. So quite a journey, and we're very appreciative to the support and to our community, to our constituency. Today, we have with us a very, very important member of our community, and that is District Leader William Allen. He is also the political analyst for Harlem Network News. So, William, please introduce yourself and just share a little bit about who you are, whose you are, what your journey has been, and what's a district leader, please. Thank you.
Okay. Happy day, happy week, and happy coming new week. I'm happy to be here always, Terry, and get a chance to talk about things that impact Harlem, but really impact us globally. And we're able to localize it so we can have some understanding of our place in the world. As a Democratic district leader, I am responsible for being the voice in the Democratic Party for Harlem. And that is with those who are nominated and elected as public leaders, and also helping those who want to become judges. It's a non-paid position. There is no budget. It is the ultimate volunteer position. And I'm just honored to serve. I've been serving since 1999.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. So how did you become a district leader? Were you elected?
I was elected. You have to, in order to be a district leader, you have to be elected. So I was elected in 1999. I succeeded one of my good friends now, Kevin Wardolly. He was in the seat. Before him, it was Ronnie Harley. And before him, it was Ed Fordham. And who else was I all I can know is Ed Fordham. I stopped right there, but those are all great Harlemites who've done some tremendous work as in their own right as civic leaders, as business owners, as lawyers, as government employees. So I follow an important history. Percy Sutton was a district leader. Charlie Rangel is still a district leader. Des Dickens, the district leader.
Wow.
Keith Wright is a district leader. Wilma Brown Phillips is a district leader. David Dinkins was a district leader. In fact, if you think of any outstanding politician in Harlem, they were a district leader.
Okay, so that really gives us a wealth of knowledge. And do you cover a specific district as a district leader? And what are some of your duties as a district leader? Because I want to be sure
basically I cover Central Harlem, even though I cover what they call the 70th Assembly District. And even though we're all given parts, we all take responsibility for the whole thing. We come together as a team. So it's 4 parts. I'm part A. Charlie Rangel is part B. Keith Wright is part C. And Louis Newperson, I can't think of his last name, please forgive me. But he has not been meeting with us, nor does he get in touch with us. That's why I can't remember who he is. So it's not our fault, it's his fault. But we all attempt to work together particularly around the issue of nominating judges that reflect the values of our community, and making sure those who get elected to public office also reflect our values. Yeah, as you know, I was very instrumental, and we have 4 female district leaders counterpart. My co-leader is Cordell Clear, who I was instrumental in helping her become the new state senator.
Excellent, excellent.
Wilma Brown Phillips is the female co-leader for Keith Wright. Inez Dickens is the female co-leader for Charlie Rangel.
Okay.
And up in Part D, my great friend Thompson, she is a district leader for Part D.
Okay.
Ortiz Thompson.
Thank you for explaining that to us. And part of what we do here at Harlem Network News.
And that's Griselle. I couldn't think of her name offhand. Griselle Ortiz Thompson.
Okay.
She's out of 3333 Broadway. So we're all strategically located throughout Central Harlem and bring all those values and interests to the table for all of us.
Okay, very, very important.
Yep.
And I know that most of our community is very overwhelmed with survival. For those of you who are just joining, I'm here with our district leader, William Allen, who has been a district leader since 1999. And the district leaders have a lot to do with the elections and appointments of judges. So very, very critical, because these things directly impact our life. It may be unseen to many, but it directly impacts our life. So that's why it's really important to just get the full information so that we can all live our best lives here in Harlem and the Harlems of the world. So William Allen, if you would just share some of the critical issues that are impacting our community right now, and how you all as a district leader team are helping us to cut through this, and what we can do to help ourselves and work collectively with you. And I'm Terri Wisdom, for those of you who just
joined. Yeah, well, as district leaders, we are the heads of our party and our area, and our task is to make sure that Democrats in our area, are really kept informed, or they have someone who they can contact. And it works both ways. It's not just about us reaching out, it's about them reaching out too, and becoming engaged. And this particular year, we have now, we're having an election for county committee people. And the county committee really is the key working team for district leaders. And Cordell and I, as co-district leader, we're so happy to have some really wonderful, smart, civic-minded people who's going to be filling those roles starting with the June election. I should be able to get some confirmation soon whether or not they have if they're going to have a race, whether or not somebody's running against them. But it looked like it may not happen. And if that's the case, we've helped to put some really good people in place. We got a lot of new people filling these county committee vacancies who are very active, particularly in my part A, Cordell, in my part A, folks that's been active in a civic group called Greater Harlem Coalition. They are making themselves known. They're participating. They're organizing block association, tenant groups, civic groups. They're bringing back a spirit in Harlem that I haven't seen since I was a kid. So we're very happy. And so so folks who are Democrats who want to be involved, they should get in touch with me or one of the district leaders and get connected.
Okay, that sounds good. Now, I'm just walking everybody through, and once again, here at Harlem Network News, knowledge is power. So you mentioned county committee and county elections. What is the county committee? What does the county committee do? And how are they connected to the election? And how does someone become a county committee member?
County committee is elected. They're elected just like district leaders.
Okay, and when are the elections? Who elects them?
It's normally the same time that district leaders are elected, but this year, county committee was supposed to have been elected last year, but because of COVID, it was suspended. So it was moved to this year. And then they'll be up for re-election next year, and it'll be back on track.
Okay,
But
so it's a
they have
two-year.
the same responsibility as a district leader, except for their district is smaller.
Mhm. Okay,
They're responsible for maybe 1 or 2 blocks.
got it. Okay. Now, is this advertised like, young people that want to get involved, that want to get on county committees? What do they have to demonstrate to do that? What is the criteria?
It's normally not advertised because one, you don't get paid for this,
Uh-huh.
and there's no budget. So where's the money gonna come from to advertise it? To be honest with you, right?
I got
So
you.
people got to those people that are really active in our community.
Hmm.
They now know district leaders and county committee.
Gotcha.
So I think it's about starting at some other point, like for
Hmm.
example, PTA presidents, block association, those folks. If you get involved in those groups, more than likely you're going to meet county committee and district leaders, and then you're going to choose whether or not that's what something you want to do. But it should not be something you jump into just because
Okay.
you want a title. It should be because you've already been active already. And,
Okay. And you're
and
doing
I've been
the work.
active a long time. Long before I became a district leader, I was on the community board. I
Mhm.
was on the school board.
Okay.
I headed up a youth group. I think county committee and district leaders should really be people that's already been strongly civically engaged.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. Because as young people, look ahead and, obviously you and other public officials sit in a seat of, even if it's not hands on, but a seat of mentorship, and often in our community, I know that when I was growing up and I was, going to college and thinking, okay, what do I want to do? I always wanted to do something in journalism and writing,
Mm-hmm.
but there were so many professions that I had no awareness of at all, because nobody in my family had done that. I became a film editor and a video editor. When I was growing up, I didn't even know that that was a profession that existed. So, and now there are so many, many professions, and also people don't really hold one job and get a gold watch. So I think it's really important that young people and across the community, seniors, everybody knows the things that you can do and how you can get involved. But as you said, it really starts with involvement. So when will we know who's on the county committee? Is that something that's published, so we can go to our county committee member and ask?
Every elected political party or public position is recorded by the local board of elections.
Okay.
So if you want to know who your elected officials are or who's been elected, that is the agency that maintains that information. And so
Okay.
people should be encouraged to do that, to do their research. One of the things, Terry, I always tell people, power isn't really given to you. You've either earned it, or you earned it.
Right. I hear you.
you
I
know
hear you.
and so because sometimes people say, oh yeah, someone should do this for me, someone should give me that. No, every seat I've had, I've earned.
You got to do
And,
the work.
and because I went out and did the research and did my homework. If I lived wherever I lived at, I was always involved with the tenant associate, resident council. People have to be encouraged to be involved wherever they are, even their own family. And it's not just about young people, about all people. I mean,
Yes.
if you're
Yes.
living in a building and it's more than 2 families, why is that building not meeting with each other and
Mhm.
sharing concerns and building up together? If you're on a block, why are you not a part of a block association?
Mhm.
Why are you waiting for someone else to do something for you where you can also do it for yourself? It's like a church. In the church, you can come pray, or you can be a part and be an active member of a church and be a part of a church committee, an usher board, a
Right. Yes.
deacon, a
Absolutely.
trustee, or even if you're Muslim, in terms of different roles you can play in that congregation, or if you're Jewish. And so it's about folks just choosing to be involved with their neighbors and others. That's what makes a difference. But if you got to wait for someone to say, hey, come do this, I think it misses the purpose. But that's not to say I have been mentored because adults saw my interest, because they saw I was an interested young person and I kept coming around. They left a door open for me. They allowed me to see what they were doing. and I started asking questions. I took interest, and I think as young people have come around me, that's what I've done. I got some great mentees, young lawyers who constantly contact me. Joshua Clennon, who's very active with the community board, comes out of my club, and I count him as a mentee. And he's shown that he wants to be in public life, and he's doing all the things as a young person to try to reach that goal. He's talking to not only his peers, but he's talking to the older generation. And I always tell people, leaders do make leaders. And so if young folks want to be involved, they got to come to the meetings and be engaged.
Okay.
That's what I did.
Okay.
And when older folks see that you want to be involved and you're showing up, and not just showing up to talk, but coming to do the work, you're going to find you're going to gain support.
Okay. Well, thank you, William Allen. And as always,
you're welcome, Terri Wisdom.
As always, you're dropping knowledge and, pushing us on to do the work. Several times I asked you questions and you said, call the Board of Elections. They have all the information.
That's right.
So, as you said, you've really got to do the work. But let's continue. This is Terri Wisdom. This is Harlem Network News. And I'm here with our district leader and political analyst, William Allen. Can you just share what you think some of the key issues and concerns are that we're dealing with right now in the Harlem community, and what steps are being taken to address those? Thank you.
Repeat that, Terri. You went in and out for a second.
Okay, I'm so sorry. I was asking what you think some of the key critical issues are that we're dealing with here in the Central Harlem area, the area that you impact, and how it just spokes out. And
I think the key thing that's happening in Harlem is, I think what we're experiencing now have shown an absence of aggressive, progressive leadership, and progressive and aggressive engagement. I think folks in Harlem, whether it's the leadership or those who live here, I'm talking about the traditional Harlem residents that tend to be African Americans or Puerto Ricans in particular. Somewhere along the line, we stopped being engaged in our own welfare. We stopped going to PTA meetings. We stopped forming block associations. We stopped forming tenant associations. If we got into the HDFC or the TIL buildings, we began to see it only as our own asset and not the asset of the community. And so this is why, one of our great challenges now, when we look at the Black population in Central Harlem, it's down to 40%. In fact, there are more African Americans in the 68th Assembly District, which is East Harlem, than there is in Central Harlem. And there's some reasons for that, and I'll explain shortly. But my concern is, as a kid, I saw the power of our community. I remember an Ennis Francis. I had conversations with a Betty Washington, a Delia Ortiz, Ruth Gilman, Sheila Hurdle, Barbara G. Brabber. The list go on of all these incredible active Black women who were civically engaged. They took no nonsense from nobody, and they were constantly organizing, and holding us all accountable. And I got to tell you, that has really kind of disappeared. And I think, so the crisis that we're now going through has a lot to do with the lack of engagement that we have in our community. And I just don't want to just blame leaders, because sometimes it's easy to blame the politicians. It's easy to blame the quote unquote leaders, but at some point we got to say to ourselves, where are we lacking as a culture? And why did we're not encouraging each other to be more engaged and responsible for our survival? And I really believe that when our leaders were at their best, at the Adam Clayton Powell, the Shirley Chisholms, the Geraldine Daniels, Constance Baker Motley, is because they had engagement from their neighbors that made them strong.
Yes,
so when people say, oh, our leaders are not the same anymore, well, we're not the same anymore.
True.
And that's something that we got to be honest about it and think about. I just had a conversation the other day with a young professional. She's in education, youth development. Okay. And we started pondering. I said, you know what? The Republicans have all these incredible think tanks, right? They're constantly examining their issues and their interests. Mm-hmm. Can anybody name a Black think tank?
Thank you.
You have all these Black colleges, but how are they directed to address Black problems? Mm-hmm. When do they come into Harlem or South Jamaica, Queen, wherever Black folks lie? How do we connect back to our so-called institutions to address the challenges that we face as a Black people in America? And so the thing I'm talking about lately is that we got to begin to look at ourselves and our institutions and begin to hold each other accountable for our survival and our future. And we got to get people engaged. You know, it's not waiting for somebody else to do something. We all got to be doing something to bring about this change. You know, I hear sometimes people say, oh, I'm not going to vote, doesn't make a difference. Well, guess what? You not participating does make a difference. When you're not voting, somebody else will get the benefit of your lack of vote, and they're going to be wealthy from that, and they're going to be empowered by that. You know, and so this is my new speech. My new speech is about engagement. Thank you. And when people come to me all the time, Terry, oh man, we don't see you guys until election time. I said, guess what? I don't see you at all because you don't come to anything. Right. Who are you out here helping? Right. You know, you up here asking me where I'm at. Where have you been? Where do you live? What block you on? Oh, that block. Well, that block needs a block association. You got some time? Oh, that building needs a tenant association. Can you participate? Mm-hmm. That church needs your faithfulness. Are you ready? So these are the kind of challenges that I think now are on the table for us, and that we can make a difference, especially as Black people. You know, Adam Clayton Powell, you know, he has some remarkable things to say, him and Marcus Garvey. And but if you look at those two men and the women that were also leading with them, they had a strong network of engaged people. So those are the kind of things I think we need to focus on. Right now in Harlem, we got this new civic group that's out here called the Greater Harlem Coalition. I'm so proud of their engagement. You know, do I agree with everything they have to say? No, but here's what I do agree with. The fact that they speak up and they're participating, they're open to ideas, they're here to protect the community, and I value them. And we need more groups like that in every corner of Harlem. And we need to tell that to young people. If young people want to be in politics and government, then start at the grassroots level.
Okay, you know, I love it. I love it. And yeah, we're on the same frequency. One of the initiatives as we move into this election year that Harlem Network News is going to take on, we are doing our activism by being on Harlem Network News, trying to cover things that happen. And we are going to be working to initiate an African American Voters Council to assure that, you know, people know the steps, they know about, you just spoke about the coalition, if you'd share a little bit about that, because sometimes I think, and you can't make an excuse, because there is no excuse, because at the end of the day, if you don't get involved, if you don't do things, it's going to be harmful and it's going to impact your life. So you've got to get involved. Everybody's busy. You know, everyone has children, everyone has rent to pay. But in order to make some changes in these things, you definitely have to be involved. So if you would say a little bit about the coalition and what they do and how people can know more about it, you know, that would be great as well. Thank you, William Allen.
Yeah. The coalition is just a civic group, and I just don't want them to be the only group that people can get involved with. Yes. I want to make this so simple that it only takes two people to create anything. One, your idea, and someone who accepts your idea. That's all it takes. So whatever block you're on, we want people to say, I live on this block. is there a block association? I live in this building. Is there a resident council? Um, I want to keep it as simple as possible. So it's not just about one particular group. It's really about the individual and how they choose to connect. They can also attend the community board. You don't have to be a voting member. You can be a public member. They have a whole host of issues and stuff that they discuss. And so I'm sure they have something that also fits your interests, you know. And I'll be more than happy if those who have an interest that want to be engaged, I'll be more than happy to be a mentor and
Okay.
to help them figure this stuff out, because sometimes we need someone to help explain things to us.
Mm.
Sometimes we want to, oh, I might be embarrassed, I might say the wrong thing. I want to tell people it's all right to sometimes speak the wrong thing, as long as you're not vicious and you're not trying to hurt somebody, and that you're seeking
Right.
truth. It's all right to ask the tough questions. I
Yeah.
always tell people it's better to ask the questions than to make statements without the research and the information. So you say, hey, you can say something like, those are homeless people, or you can say, who are those people?
Right. Mhm.
Right?
Yeah.
You can say, um, she's a drug addict. You can say, is she someone in need?
Mhm.
It
Many
all
ways to
depends.
look at everything,
There's many
for
ways to
sure.
look at stuff.
Mhm.
And so if you're a caring person, you're going to ask the questions, and you're going to ask the questions such a way to uplift and not tear somebody down.
Yeah, I think that's extremely important, and particularly in the world that we live in today, because it's a big world. There's so much going on. Violence has become a way of life. The gun violence, the crime. I mean, I've experienced it personally, as
I
many
know.
know.
And
I
me too.
lost my son to gunshot. On November 21st, and I'm still unraveling that. I'm unpacking that, trying to understand that, but I'm also doing the work so that it doesn't happen to other people, or that we can. I started a scholarship in his name. I continue to say his name. I was at a wonderful forum at Carnegie Hall. There's a great book called Jump that is by one of the chairmen of Nike, the Jordan brand, Larry Miller, and it's called Jump: From the Streets to the Boardroom. And he and his daughter, who was actually my daughter's college roommate, they wrote a book because when he was 16, he committed a murder. He went to jail for it, paid his time. At that time, was able to go to college and get himself out into the work world. So he's doing the mentoring, and he spoke to a great group called Neon that deals
Hmm.
with a lot of folks on probation. So
Hmm.
we have to take these tragedies and turn it into something that's helpful, that's positive. My son is gone, but other people are still here. His son and all people of our community. So it's
Yeah.
very important. Mhm.
Yeah. Gun violence is something serious. I experienced when I was a teenager. I lost my brother to gun violence,
Mm.
and three cousins, three
Wow.
first cousins. So, and I spent my entire career attempting to address the violence that's inside of our culture, um, and how to keep ourselves safe, and how do we handle conflict among ourselves. I
Absolutely.
think what's needed today among young people is truly there has to be some way of reaching them around violence
Mhm.
and conflict, and
Conflict
how to
resolution.
yeah, resolution. These things are really needed. I know when I was a kid, Basil Patterson, Daniel Patterson, and David Patterson's father
Uh-huh.
created a conflict resolution organization, um, and they did mediation and conflict resolution, and it would be good to see more of that talked about. I know I
Yes.
say Cool has street corner resources,
Yes.
and
I
her
just
group
think,
is pretty
yes.
much yeah, it's pretty much a conflict resolution group,
Mhm.
and I thank God for her and
Yes,
the
yes.
work that she's doing.
We clap for her.
Erica Ford out in Queens,
Mhm.
and the brothers and sisters that are doing this work in Brooklyn and in the Bronx, and thank goodness that this new mayor have seen the benefit of it and is helping to continue to fund it. But I got to tell you, those groups are not funded enough,
Mhm.
and they need more support. And I think as they get more support, they can impact more neighborhoods and more young people
Yes.
exponentially.
Yeah, it's very, very critical. It's very important. I mean, I know the mayor has been taking some initiatives on Black media, media of color, and we're
Yep.
working to diligently be a part of that because knowledge is power, information is power. And the conflict resolution, both my children attended Central Park East Secondary School and the elementary schools. That's in East Harlem. And those were alternative schools. This is pre-charter school. But one of the things that they had every day was a conflict resolution circle. They had pull-ups, what they call pull-ups and strokes. And you would pull up the good stuff, or the bad, pull up the bad stuff and stroke the good stuff. And this was a daily routine. And I think more of that at a very grassroots and basic level would help the minds of young people. You've got to feed those minds to make a change so that when a person is in a situation, they have a mind of their own thought to know what to do. It's not a broad stroke, but it starts with small strokes. And even if they're not getting that in their home, then it's being a daily thing in school, where they're knowing how to interact and what to do. Now, that brings us to another comment. This is Harlem Network News, and we've had some big headlines that have happened over the past couple of weeks. One was the nomination and actually the confirmation of Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson. Would you comment on that, William Allen? And how does
Yeah.
that impact us? Because people are talking about, oh, we listened to the hearings, but how does that trickle down to our community? What connection do we have to the justice and the Supreme Court justice, please?
Well, I mean, it has a lot to do with us. One, she is a Black woman who's had a Black woman, Black girl, Black family experience. She spent most of her career, her early career, as a public defender, not a prosecutor. She has a love for the law. She had an interest becoming a judge a long time ago, and I know a lot of Black women who are lawyers and now judges because I became a district leader. I've been able to help Black women become judges here in New York, and I see their value for our community and this city and this state, and so now having a Black woman in the highest court sends a very strong message for more Black women and girls to achieve that. Justice is a very strange thing in America. When we were able to really change a lot of the laws in this country is when we as a culture, as a community, was at our greatest peak of being civically involved. And so just because you elect a Black president or a Black vice president or a Black justice on the Supreme Court does not mean that the work stops. The work got to continue because we still have this economic imbalance between us and white Americans where we still just don't have the wealth, or we had an opportunity to have the wealth and it was taken away from us.
Mm-hmm.
And so wealth and politics are kind of intertwined. And so just having someone on the court when there's certain cases coming before the court, having a voice in the room means a lot. I mean, I think about when as a kid, the remarks and the comments from Thurgood Marshall and how significant he was as the first Black man on the court. I think Sotomayor, who's Puerto Rican,
Yes.
Latin, and when she got to court, in fact, what her voice meant, and so, it means a lot. If America it's going to become a better place, because certainly it did not start out that way. It started out as a great idea, and then they got into a dirty business of enslaving other human beings, and it made the American truth an American lie. So I think her presence is going to mean a lot.
Okay. Okay. Thank you very much. And just briefly, because I know, I mean, you're wielding a lot of power, a lot of knowledge, and indeed, knowledge is power. So you've explained the significance of Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson. But for those who are listening, and this is Harlem Network News, we want to make sure that you're involved and you understand how you're connected. What does the Supreme Court do? And where are they in the levels of court and impact things that, you know, happen to us locally? What goes to a Supreme Court?
Well, there's only one Supreme Court, and its purpose is to address issues around the Constitution. So, you know, if there's some kind of violation of human rights or civil rights, or a law that's not treated fairly, it can move up to the Supreme Court. So you think about access to public education. One of the biggest cases came out of the 1950s, Brown versus the Board of Education, which said, sorry, I'm choking here.
Yeah, yeah, take a moment, take a moment. Take a moment.
I can't reach my cough drops. That's another side of the room.
Okay, yeah, the weather's changing.
Yeah. It's really allergies for me. It's like the dust, it's all this stuff.
Yeah, everything. Everything. We just finished with Earth Day, so we're trying to, you know, level the playing field for everybody. Okay. So this is Harlem Network News, and I'm here with William Allen as he takes a minute to just, you know, clear his throat. It's allergy time and a lot going on. I just wanted to say this is Harlem Network News, and we are honored to have our district leader and our political analyst, William Allen, with us. And we just finished speaking about the impact and the importance of Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson being, you know, nominated and, you know, ratified. So let's continue to watch. And it's not the end. We all were active and a part. You know, I belong to a group called Win with Black Women. We took out, you know, an ad, a full page ad in the New York Times of 1,000 signatures, but it can't stop there. You know, we have to follow, we have to continue, you know, just like William said, just because it's a Black president or a, you know, Black justice, it doesn't end with that. You still got to be engaged. You still got to push for your platforms, let them know, because often people at the top don't know what's happening. So you've got to keep them informed. We've got to do our part. The other thing that I wanted to speak about, which has been a headline in the news as well, was our lieutenant governor, or Harlem's own lieutenant governor, Brian Benjamin, who was arrested on, and I believe it's campaign finances. And then shortly after he stepped down, he was recently appointed as the lieutenant governor. He was our former state senator. Can you shed a little knowledge on what happened? Because we're only looking at what happened in the news. I mean, has there been a trial? Is this just an accusation? What really happened and what's really happening, so we can understand it, and how does our, you know, our community recover from this, and how does Brian Benjamin recover for this or deal with this? You know, if you could share to the best of your knowledge, because it's all over the news, but we need to understand what's happening and how it impacts us. So thank you.
Well, I think that the justice agencies know more than we know. All I can say is that I've known Brian for quite a number of years, a long time. And he was one of those younger people that came to me that said that he wanted to be in public service. And I was very impressed by that. And he went and got involved, serving on the community board. He became the community board chair. He got to know all the other elected officials in the community. He got to know the Democratic clubs. He ran for district leader. He ran for county committee. Most people that know Brian, they like him. He has a wonderful disposition, personality. He's easy to talk to. And I know this current matter is not only was shocking for the community, I can imagine how his family feels. And so him and his family are certainly in my prayers. And I hope that he comes out of this unscathed and will continue to find a way of being of some service to his community. A lot of times, our leaders or folks that get enrolled, sometimes we're put in situations where we can either be compromised, or led down the wrong road. I don't know if that happened to Brian, but I can say this: when leaders don't have strong, visible, engaged support, there are other folks that lurk around them. I always tell people the corporations in America have all these powerful rich lobbyists, and they float around our elected officials and try to get them off the track of serving us. I'm not saying that was happened to Brian, but it gives us an opportunity to talk about what that process looks like. And so when our communities are not thoroughly engaged and working closely with its elected officials or the community board or other kind of vehicles by which we can protect our interests, bad things can happen.
Absolutely.
Bad things can happen. And when you read about the story about Brian in the press, it's like, you'll say to yourself, what is that about? How does something happen like that? How does leaders or organizations, how do they pick people to be around them to speak the truth to power and to give them the support so they can be effective and strong? I think about Adam Powell and what he went through. I was not adult to really learn, but he was attacked to remember he was in and out of court. There's a famous case called Powell v. McCormick. That involved Adam Powell in his time in Congress. He went through some challenging stuff. Some of the stuff that Dr. King went through. Dr. King was spied on by the FBI. Marcus Garvey was tossed out of the country. And so we need to be, here's my point. We got to be very careful how our community and those that we elect get criminalized before a fair trial or a fair opportunity to be heard. And so I'm just very, very careful not to prejudge a set of facts that I don't really have access to, and all I can speak on is what was my experience with Brian. And I got to tell you, it was always pleasant. I knew how much he loved Harlem. I know how much he loves his family, and I know how much he loved me and loved us.
Right.
And I know that right now he's in a very lonely place, probably. And I hope if he can hear my voice, that he's in my prayers. His mother, his wife, his two young daughters. And I want him to know that wherever he's going through, there is a lesson in that he can bring back to his community.
Yes.
To talk about his experience, because through his experience, we can become stronger. Through his experience, we can become stronger. And I've heard some people say some really mean and ugly things, even for the trial. I was like, how do you say these things and you don't even know everything that took place yet? I mean, for example, Donald Trump is still walking the streets.
Right. And he wasn't arrested.
And he wasn't arrested. And he had a whole mob attack the Capitol. And where are those people at?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not to say that the facts of the Bryant case should not get attention. I'm just saying that the hypocrisy that I constantly see, leads me to think differently about things sometime in our country. And that's why I say things like that. We have to be more active, more engaged, because how we're treated and how other people are treated is so different. Yeah. And it's so unfair. You got a former governor who I also happen to like, but look at his situation. And he's still walking around free too. Right. And so it's almost like, as a Black man, I have to say to myself, as a Black man, I know that I will be treated differently from white men. And if you would look at the Bryant situation versus the Cuomo situation and the Trump situation, you see that there seems like there is some really great difference in the treatment. And so I would want to say that the Brian Benjamin story needs to be discussed in a context of the Donald Trump and the Andrew Cuomo. And let's look at this in terms of here's three men, and look how each of them are treated in a similar situation. And it's this unbelievable. It's almost like no matter what, the Black man will be criminalized. Mm-hmm. And I hope that, no one's offended by what I'm saying, right? But I'm really speaking from my heart, and I see the hypocrisy, and it really hurts.
Okay, really thank you. I thank you for sharing. I thank you for speaking truth to power and some of what goes on. And I know that Brian Benjamin has been very busy, and we did have him on Harlem Network News at the onset. And we have always endeavored to have him on more. And we endeavor to have him on. I know that there's a lot of legal going on, so it may be difficult for him to come on a Harlem Network News. But Brian Benjamin, we invite you to come to talk to the people, to tell your story, to tell your side, to share when you're able to do that. Because I think that it's very important. It's important that we tell our own stories. And it's very important and significant. This is Harlem Network News. And what you said in terms of the difference of treatment of people of color and other people, and particularly Black men of color, there's a different treatment that happens. And we always have to look at that. We always have to be conscious about that. And that's some of the disparity, the systemic racism. This is what we have to combat. And some of how we combat it, which is why we Harlem Network News are here, is that we tell our own stories. The mayor himself, at some point about a month ago was like, okay, wait a minute, like I'm the mayor and I'm getting some different coverage, So we've got to really look at that. And right. I'm dedicated and committed as a Harlem Network News. We don't have the wealth, but we have the mindset, and we're here to do the work. If you are able to make donations or you have stories, come to us. We're now going into the next phase after 2 years, but I know that media is impactful. Having a degree in media, having studied media, having lived and breathed media, the question becomes, is the media the message, or is the message media? That's a book, Marshall McLuhan. And that's a very real factor, because people are tried in the media. And, even with everybody having a cell phone, we've seen people killed on television. And there's still a question as to whether or not, this is a wrong thing. We've all seen it with our own eyes, So we've got to look at and analyze what we've seen. So I like what you said, William Allen, that your prayers are with Brian, your prayers are with the family. We don't know all the details. And For those of us who are familiar or know of a Marcus Garvey who was trying to take our communities back to Africa, who actually had, ships, and it really wasn't tax fraud, it was mail fraud that they got Marcus Garvey on. Like there was something written in a letter. You know what I'm saying? So we got to look at what's really, really happening. But how does this impact our community? Because we know that we have elections coming up. We know that our state senator Cordell Clear is a special electorate, is our state senator. We have up in the state, Reverend Al Taylor in the assembly, Inez Dickens in the assembly. How does that impact us and our credibility with the community and with the other public officials? If you could just speak on that.
Well, it has a great impact because one, the Bryan matter kind of fracturalized the party. It gives the Republican Party some animus to rally up their base and create a victory for themselves. I mean, that's really what can happen. Secondly, it's, the Republicans vote consistently. The Democrats sometimes it's like that family members that get mad and then stay away for a while. And this is why it's so important for us to increase engagement and support, because no matter what happened, we should always have somebody strong to come right behind and fulfill a situation. So therefore our voices can constantly be heard. Someone said, and someone had to see, and I'm just speculating right now, right? It's safe to do that. So you have Brian Benjamin, an African-American in a statewide seat. You had a Black woman, Tish James, in a statewide seat. You have about 6 members of Congress from New York of African descent. Okay, you got a African descent mayor of New York City.
Yes.
You got Black folks in all these key, powerful roles.
Absolutely.
Throughout the state of New York. And for somebody, that is not a good look. And so while we're able to get these positions of power, my concern is that we got to work on engagement. That's why district leaders and county committee roles, community boards, they're so important, because it's not just about Brian.
Right.
It's about us.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Brian is a part of
when
us.
They see Brian, they see a Black man.
Right.
When they see a Cuomo or a Trump, they see different.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
And so we get whatever Brian does or what they think he did, we get blamed for it. And so when Trump and them do something, exactly. And so we got to really encourage people to be politically active, to be civically active in the culture, in the community. When people say, oh my God, as Black people, we lost Harlem. No, you stopped going to meetings protecting your interests. You were waiting for someone to go to do it. You will say things like, oh, I don't see you until election time. And that means if you don't see me till election time, that speaks to your engagement, that you're not involved, you're not supporting, you're not participating, you're not protecting your family, you're not protecting our power.
Yes.
And so exactly. And so at the end of the day, as a Black man and someone who understands history, I know when folks come after me or came after us, at the end of the day, we had each other. We had and I won't mention names, we had a football player who got accused of murdering a spouse. And at the end of the day, he had to come back home. A lot of us, sometimes we drip away from the culture, and then we learn how people really see us. And then at the end of the day, we're here, but we got to make sure that when folks return, that we're also continue to be strong. For example, You cannot create more Black judges if a housing in New York is not affordable,
True.
right? How
Another
can a young
topic.
lawyer become
Whoa.
a public defender if they cannot afford to live in the area? I
Absolutely.
mean, a friend of mine's, mentor friend of mine, she just sold a brownstone, and all the apartments now she's being shown cost like over $5,000 a month.
Yeah, yeah.
So I said to her, I said, well, you got a couple of million now, you can afford it. But I said, just imagine what young professionals, those who want to be in public service, are going through. We cannot afford to even come. I mean, younger people cannot even afford to stay in Harlem.
No.
So how are we going to create
and there are very few places
for young people if the cost of a housing is too expensive?
It's prohibitive. And I mean,
so
I think
all this stuff connects.
Yeah, it's all connected. And I love what you're saying. I love what you're thinking. You know, and it's unfortunate in America if one Black person does something, if they're entertainer, if they're a public official, we're not naming names, if, you know, they're at the Emmys or wherever they are and do something, it becomes all of our responsibility, and it paints us all. And it should not, because whatever Donald Trump or whoever Cuomo does, that doesn't taint the whole white race. You know,
look at it.
Suppose
Brian would have done what Trump did last January the 6th.
Oh, no. We can't even
talk about that. Imagine that if Brian had encouraged Black Lives Matter to take over the Capitol.
Yeah.
Just imagine.
Yeah, that's not even.
And so
that's not even imagined.
No. You got stuff now in real time that shows you the racial hypocrisy in America. Mm-hmm. It's so blatant.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. So we have a lot to unpack. And part of it is just looking at it and understanding what's happening for us. And it's also learning from the situation. Like I said, I keep going back to this book, Jump, where, you know, Larry Miller, the executive for Nike, who really brought the Nike brand, you know, and it took years for him to really open up and tell the world what his story was. You know, a lot of pain for him. You know, he never lied about it, because it was like, well, have you been formally incarcerated in the past 5 years? The answer is no. But him coming out and really telling his story is great for others, because it shows humility. He's mentoring people. He's showing people that though this happened, I was able to change my life. So it's like, whatever happens to you, you got to own it, and then you got to take it from there. But I think it's also critical for us as people of color to recognize where we are and what the impact of what we do is. And, you know, it shouldn't be like how your mother used to tell you, oh, you got to be 3 times as good and you got to be this and that. But you have to be more careful. And this is a very transparent world right now with internet and everything else. You know, you could just be walking down the street and somebody catch you on a camera, and the next thing you know, you've gone viral. So you can't hide now. It works a couple of different ways.
That's right.
So I'm glad that we spoke about the Brian Benjamin situation. He is certainly welcome on this show. We would like to hear his voice. We want to hear his story. It's very important. We're not here to bastardize him. And whatever we can do, he's one of our own to support, to heal, because it didn't just happen to him. It's happened to all of us, because that's what it is when you're Black. We're having to take the weight for it all. For one person, 2 people, whatever it is, we end up to take that weight. So we've taken that responsibility, and we're looking for change, involvement, engagement. This is Harlem Network News. This has been a very robust conversation. Quickly, William Allen, and it's not a quick story, of course you're going to come back, but what about the first, and there's other candidates coming up. We have our, you know, primaries in June. I know Cordell's got to run for that. I don't know who else is, you know, having up for the primaries to get in there. And then we've got what's called the midterms coming up in November. and we've got that gubernatorial election. We got, I believe, Jumaane Williams has his hat in. So there's a lot going on. And I don't know if is Brian Benjamin still on the ticket with Governor Hochul, because I've seen something like, this is, the press, he's got to get off the ticket, says Governor Hochul, and she's not going to put him out of New York. So what's that about?
I will not refer you to the Board of Elections. But under the election law, Brian collected the qualified number of signatures to be placed in nomination in the Democratic primary that's going to take place in June. Okay. And there is not a ticket yet. The lieutenant governor and the governor run separately in the primary.
Okay.
They run separately in the primary. And then they run as a ticket in the general election, which is November. So if Brian happens to win the nomination and then decided not to accept it, there's a chance for the party I believe there's a chance for the party, his vacancy committee or something like that can fill the spot. I got to get that confirmed.
Okay.
But I believe that if he wins and chooses not to run, I think he can be replaced. I got to figure out what that process is. And I apologize, okay. I don't have full information, but I'm gonna have that.
No, I know we're gonna have you back. We're gonna try to put it in writing.
And I promise,
because people need to know.
Yeah.
Excuse me?
We got to get that information.
Yeah. People need to know the steps, the process. Now, where does Jumaane Williams fit in? Is he running?
He's running for governor. He collected signatures. He's going to be on the ballot for the Democratic primary.
Okay.
Yeah, and he's supporting. I can't think of her name. I apologize. Right. No pun intended. But he's running someone for lieutenant governor. Against Brian.
Something. Yeah.
Yeah, against Brian.
Yes. Okay. So
there's another person, a congressman from Long Island, who's also running for governor, and he's running a female for lieutenant governor.
Okay, so we've got to get that information, put it in writing.
We got to get that information. Get
it out to the people.
That's right.
So people know what we're dealing with. So briefly, can't be briefly, but we're almost out of time, and I don't want to keep you. I appreciate you coming to Harlem Network News on this Sunday. But let's talk about a highlight of Mayor Eric Adams and the first 100 days, because that hits us right home.
Yeah.
Thoughts?
He got a difficult job. And we all got opinions in terms of how that job ought to be done.
Yes.
We realize the stuff that he has to get done has to get done. I guess some of us have been more concerned about language.
Bless you.
I just wish he would just be more concerned about how he expressed himself in some of these matters, especially with vulnerable people. So when he talked about cleaning up the subways and stuff like that, and with the homeless people, I don't know, it sounded a little mean.
Okay.
And I know Eric, and I know he's not a mean person, and I know he means well. And I know lately now he's had a meeting where homeless people are included in the discussion.
Yes.
And I hope that he will continue to be more inclusive, just like that. That he'll bring more of the people that he's trying to impact. He needs to make sure that they're a part of the discussion. So, for example, the issues that we're going through on 125th Street, please also involve the agencies, nonprofit, government, and foundations that working with vulnerable populations, making sure that they're at the table. I know some of the businesses in Harlem have been heavily hit by thefts. We're having folks going inside of stores and just stealing stuff and without any repercussion. And I know that's a big issue for business owners, but it's a big issue for communities, because if the stores go out of business, then it's going to hurt all of us.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And a lot of the stores are closed
I told
early
this to the president of the BIT yesterday, Barbara Askin. She's the president of Business Improvement District.
Yes,
and
yes.
She's right. She said, William, if they go out of business, 125th Street is going to be like it used to be when you were a kid. It was dark. It was abandoned, and therefore the community has no commerce, and then it's going to spread out to the other commercial thoroughfares in our community. It's going to affect the restaurants, stuff like that.
Right. Yeah.
And so we got to figure out
being able to just quality of life as well, being able to purchase. I'm near, Lenox Terrace here, and the whole strip of stores is burned down. So now, if you want to go to the 99-cent store, you got to walk 10 blocks or drive 10 blocks. It impacts quality of life. There's a lot of seniors, so it makes it difficult to get basic things.
So my key concern is, as we're discussing the impact on businesses, the impact on homeowners, we just got to make sure that those are at the table discussing this challenge is balanced. That we just can't have, as they say, the community elite sitting down talking. You really got to make sure that vulnerable people and their advocates are also at the table, so we can all learn together. Because, for example, I don't remember this amount of displaced people roaming Harlem like this ever.
Never.
So something must have happened.
Right.
And I want to hear that. What caused this to happen?
Right.
Who failed these people?
Right.
Why are these people now being dumped in neighborhoods, and all of a sudden it makes us all look like bad people because we're trying to deal with this? Something happened. We need to have that kind of discussion and making sure that people get the support and help that they need. Because it does look like it is an overflow of people who have experienced mental health issues. So I cannot even call them homeless.
Right.
I would say these are people that just have been failed. Because if a person has mental health issues, I don't know if giving them housing is going to fully address their issue and make them and us safe. I mean, a recent situation, there was a fire recently in Harlem.
Right.
And the tenants in that building said, listen, the fire was caused by a particular neighbor who had mental health challenges, and they kept complaining about it. And they didn't want to be insensitive. They didn't want to be insensitive. They said, but hold it. They said, this person caused the fire. And so that to me is like an alarm. Say, okay, how do we really handle this in a humane way, but at the same time, we can protect other people?
Yeah, we have to address it, and we don't know.
There's
a lot of information, because in terms of doing some of the research, I know someone was telling me, well, a lot of the homeless people are coming from like some shelters or something, over on Randall's Island. You know what I'm saying? So these are some very clear things that are happening, and our community, has weaknesses anyway. So when you drop the drug program straight into our community, when you drop the homeless in, it makes it worse. But I think one of the things, and I don't know if the mayor has the power for this, but I believe, and this is my opinion, not the opinion of Harlem Network News, but it's my personal opinion, that we've got to stop these developers. We got to bring them to the table, because everywhere we turn, there are high glass buildings that are being built, okay? They're being fitted into whatever space they can fit in, and the rents are all $4,000 and $5,000. So that is causing a lot of the homelessness, the rent situation, the ERAP not working however it can. This is what's causing the problem, and it's causing the stress. So it's causing more mental illness. This is a circle. It's a holistic thing. So you can't build high rises, push people out, not have jobs, not support the small businesses, and think everything's going to be good. It's not going to be good. So I don't know what legislative body, what mayor or whoever can stop. I know the developers come to the community board, but the community board can't really stop them. but there needs to be a moratorium on that.
Let me say this, right? That's why we got to increase engagement. That's why you cannot let politicians do all the work and the running of our democracy. That everybody has a responsibility who have a sound mind to be engaged. First of all, up in the early 1990s, and you and I talked about this before, the city of New York owned more than 80% of the Harlem real estate.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
the city of New York, through the city council, had the power to determine who that property got transferred to. Okay, then you had a mayor like what's his name? Trump's lawyer. I can't even think.
Giuliani.
Rudolph Giuliani.
Rudolph Giuliani.
So between Rudolph Giuliani and a city council that knew that folks wasn't engaged, they cut deals and took our land and stuff away from us.
Yes.
So during the David Dinkins and the Ed Koch years, those are, to me, the greatest Renaissance years for Harlem. That was the first time when land in Harlem was truly moving towards the people that's been struggling there, Black people. We were doing home ownership, first time home owners buyers. We were building new housing developments. We were moving working class family into those buildings. We made sure that we had adequate security. We had adequate doormen. We formed tenant associations. We were creating community. And the moment that we lost that seat for 25 years and a city council who really, I don't know what they were doing, but that was that 25-year period where public land became going to the hand of private developers. They got a hold of the brownstones.
Right.
And it just caused a flow in the cost of housing our community. I mean, I even think of Black homeowners in Harlem who own brownstones, and now they're seeing their taxes go way, way up, where they cannot even afford to keep the brownstone because now they can't afford to pay the taxes.
So what tourniquet can we put on? Who is the point person?
We got to hold the city council accountable for an affordable New York. We got to hope that, because that's the city charter. We got to make sure that we now do political education and we read the charter to people, read the Constitution, the state constitution. We need to make sure that there is no excuse from any of us understanding what it means to be an American and our responsibility as a New Yorker and our responsibility to our culture. That we just can't. So if we're monitoring what our elected officials are doing on our behalf, we will have a better community and we will have a better city. And we will not be caught up in the flim-flam that exists for the last 30 to 40 years where people are not being involved. They're blaming politicians for doing something. Really, the politicians are doing what they're doing because we have not monitored them and held them accountable. And keep in mind, most of us, we don't even contribute to campaigns. The real estate lobby owns us. I mean, really, we need to make sure that we understand the we got to make sure that we donate to the campaigns of the folks that's going to give us voice and power. And if we don't, this can't just be our vote. We got to make sure that our candidate has sufficient resources to run effective races so we can always win and have our issues on the agenda. And that's the deal. And so right now, Black folks are in some really key roles in New York State. We're the majority leader of the state Senate. We're the Speaker of the Assembly. We're the mayor. Out of the 5 counties in New York City, 4 are headed by Black people. And so folks should say, well, hold it. You Black folks are in power to position. How come you're not been able to make this more affordable city? So we got to also begin to demand of each other, say, listen, we're part of the problem. We got to make sure that we can afford to live here, because right now, my generation and younger, they're moving to the South. They're moving up. They're leaving New York in droves because they cannot afford it.
Yeah.
They cannot afford it. You almost have to be like a banker just to live in Harlem. Who's going to pay $5,000 a month for an apartment?
And probably $5,000 for a studio. So we've got we've got
That's
work to do.
nuts.
I'm
It's
glad we're
absolutely
speaking
nuts.
truth to power, and it first
Exactly.
begins with the education, the
It's
conversation,
education.
and then let's hold these people accountable and let's get this job done.
Let's
There's
get it.
got to be
Let's get it done.
summits on housing, and I would like Mayor Adams, of course, to come on to Harlem Network News. We're here to support. We're here to inform.
I would love to see him on your
And
show.
I want to hear more than a soundbite from Mayor Adams. Like that's what they're giving him, a soundbite.
Well,
So,
if you can't get him, what about his deputy mayors?
yeah, some of the deputy mayors.
Deputy Mayor Wright is in charge of strategic planning, right?
Yes.
She's the former head of Abyssinia Development Corporation.
Absolutely.
The former head of United Way. She's a Harlem young lady.
Yes,
Bring
I'm
her
very clear.
on.
I'm very
Bring her on. Bring her on.
Yes.
Bring her on.
Okay.
You also have a Black woman who's the Speaker of the City Council, Adrian. Right. Bring her on.
Yeah.
She's the Speaker of the City Council. She's a Black woman.
Yeah.
Bring her on.
Yeah. Change has got to come. You know what I'm saying?
You got a new city council person in Harlem. You got a new city council person in Harlem. I don't agree with everything about her, but guess what? She's elected. Bring her on.
And she's
we need to be able to ask her serious questions about what is she doing down there.
Right.
You know, what is she working on in the city council?
Yes. Okay.
Because people are saying they didn't elect an activist, they elected a member of the city council. What in that job are you doing? Come speak about that. And her activism has been incredible, in terms of reach out. But I also know that that voice in the city council is so critical.
It's critical.
Around, and I want to learn more about what's happening down there. So
no, very important. And I do salute her because I know that she's been extremely active in this situation where the strip mall of, the Olmec Corporation was burned down. They actually have deemed that this was arson, know, and I know that's because she didn't stop. But like you said, what's actually happening in the city council, because that's what's going to change the game. Yeah. So we have a lot of work to do. William, a quick closing statement, because we could be on here for 3 hours, but I don't know if the audience.
But Terry, it's like I said, I haven't seen you in a while in person. It's always good to see you. What you do and this show is so important, and it gives many of us a chance to have these kind of conversations, to talk about where the real power lies. As I had said to you earlier, the real power lies not so much just in our politicians. The real power lies in all of us. We all got to be held accountable for what happens on our time and the culture. And so my last words is that we each got the power. We got to move on the power. We got to choose to be accountable. We got to all choose to be leaders.
Okay. Well, thank you, District Leader William Allen. Thank you for being our political analyst. This is Harlem Network News. You can join us every Sunday at 4:00. We also do specials. We do a newsletter once a week, and we're going to get more robust with that. And we're looking to join Manhattan Neighborhood Network so more of you can hear. But tell a friend to tell a friend. And if you can make a donation to Harlem Network News, please do it. Okay, we are the voice and the drumbeat.
Where do they make the donation to? Is there a website?
They can go to our harlemnetworknews.com, and there you can just click right on donation, and you can donate in all the forms that are available. And
can you also text me the link so I can get that out?
Yes. I absolutely will text you the link, and you can reach out to us at harlemnetworknews@gmail.com, and you can call us on the phone 646-261-5397. We take texts and we answer our phone. You're very rarely going to get a voicemail. We answer the phone. So thank you, William Allen. Thank you for your knowledge. Thank you for your insight. Thank you for speaking truth to power. And where is the actual physical Democratic Club where people could stop by, or
I call the Fred Samuel the home base club of the 70th Assembly District. They're the only ones that have a storefront. That's the club I grew up in. So I always encourage people to go by the Fred Samuel, and Wilma Brown, Phillips, and Keith. they always make sure wherever the people live at in the district, they always send them to their appropriate part. And I
Okay.
love the fact how we do that together. So I always encourage people to go by and see Wilma and Keith at 135th Street.
Okay.
I think it's 190 West. And
Yeah,
then
right off the corner.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because
of Adam Clayton Powell.
yeah, so because Michelle
Side of
Obama
the Y.
and Mike up and down, we don't have physical club
Okay.
space.
Okay.
So, but certainly people can get in touch with me. They're welcome to my telephone number, my email address, and I want to get you involved. You know, I'm willing to mentor you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much, William. We appreciate you. And this is Harlem Network News on this great day in Harlem as every day. We stand strong and then still we rise. And it takes a village. And I'm Terri Wisdom. Thank you. Have a great day. Blessings. Power to the people. Thank you.